I'm Emily Rooney. Welcome to Beat the Press. Our topics: making a hasty retweet, NECN's tweeting blunder, media sympathy toward the Steubenville rape defendants, was it over the top? Plus, the great Gardner whodunit and the media's theories in our panel rants and raves of the week. Joining me are Dan Kennedy of Northeastern University, WGBH's Kelly Crossley, Marjorie Egan of WGBH and the Boston Herald, and Joanna Weiss of the Boston Globe. First, 7 years after Twitter launched, the social media tool is a journalistic blessing and a curse. Anyone can break big stories in real time, but as we saw this week, sometimes the news on Twitter moves a bit too fast. Adam Riley has more.
After a flattering introduction Wednesday, Governor Deval Patrick stepped to the podium.
First of all, thank you very much for the warm welcome and for hosting us today and for the setup to the announcement I have come here to make, which is that I intend to run for a third term as your governor. It sounded so good, why not?
A New England cable news staffer told the station, and within minutes, NECN tweeted, "Breaking, Mass Governor announces he's running for a third term." That sent Twitter into a tizzy. The Boston Globe's Matt Visor retweeted it, and State Democratic head John Walsh gushed, "I'm in." Problem is, Patrick wasn't.
Thank you. Third for governor?
No.
Yeah, when are you going to open your campaign office?
I was teasing.
Yeah, no kidding. Within minutes, NECN issued a retraction, but the damage was done. Snarky Twitter users suggested other bogus scoops for NECN, like Bill Weld announces run for mayor, and Pope Benedict says he was just kidding. And NECN's gaffe became a story on its own.
Well, someone in the crowd took it seriously, and away it went, setting off a Twitter frenzy among...
We at Beat the Press have learned that NECN now has a new policy requiring all breaking news tweets to be cleared by a manager. But a better policy might just be listening carefully, because the governor's own words...
It sounded so good, why not?
Made it clear there was no story here at all.
Well, among other things, this shows just a gross lack of sophistication. The fact that somebody would think that he would be making this kind of an announcement at that kind of an event. I mean, it's, and then not looking at other Twitter feeds, is it no one else picked up on this? But I also heard something fairly disturbing today from a source inside NECN, and that is that they're not really taking it all that seriously. They're not quite as ashamed as they might be. They're thinking the word around the newsroom is, well, no one got killed. No. This is the kind of thing that, you know, pecks away at journalism inch by inch by inch and makes the death of it, which is why journalism can be, you know, ranked so lowly in the minds of people, because we're not taking these kinds of things seriously. It's one thing for whoever did this to put that out. Maybe that's what they heard. But then for a newsroom of that size to retweet it is beyond my imagination. If Jim Browdy or Chet Curtis or Artie Saul had been in that newsroom and had seen that, they would, oh, wait a minute. And there wasn't even a second's pause on the wait a second.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I agree with you here. It does strike me as no big deal. He said it. Obviously, the person on the scene didn't get the context, didn't get the joke, put it out. It was retracted immediately. I do think that there has to be different levels of media here, and something that a news organization puts out on its Twitter feed that he did actually say, even though he was pretty clearly joking, and then retracts it immediately, is a lot different from putting it out on your air or publishing it on your paper, in your paper, or anything like that.
I'm not sure I agree. In this day and age, people look to, I mean, a lot of people are looking to Twitter instead of looking at traditional news outlets, but when it has the brand of NECN, which is a respected news outlet, I do think you have to be careful. You have to have, I don't know if a manager needs to be responsible for every tweet, because that seems like it would really, you know, constrain a lot of people. But thinking a little bit and thinking about context seems like not too much to ask for.
I have to agree. I think that this is the, well, we talk about the losses in newsrooms of context. You mentioned people, and Jim is there. RD is not. But you need those folks that have some context to bring to it. And I agree with you, meaning that it doesn't necessarily have to be a manager, but someone who has a broader perspective. Though I have to say, I guess my first thing, if I were there, would be, would he make this announcement here? I mean, that would be the question I'd ask myself. but maybe I just been around the block 2 or 3 times, and then whoever was there has not and would not have considered that. So I think it's important that we understand when we have these discussions about how things get out or maybe how people make mistakes, that context and also having people who bring context in the newsroom is really important.
That's right. Since I'm a veteran journalist with a lot of institutional memory, I think veteran journalists are very, very important. But this gets to something that I think has always kind of fascinated me: the need to report things first. So if it had been Governor Patrick's announcing for his 3rd term, NECN could have said, we reported this first and run that up the flag. But does anybody ever look at, does that matter to viewers? I mean, to me, I don't care, really. I mean, I care if I get to report it first, if the Boston Herald breaks the story or something, but to the viewer or the reader, they want people that they can trust. And you think, as Matt Visor said, or, NECN's a trusted source. But so that's the thing. I think now you'd think to yourself, next time you hear something unusual coming from NECN, you may say, well, wait a minute, because you remember this Governor Patrick thing. I think news organizations do themselves an awful lot of harm by racing. You could have waited till after the governor had finished speaking and run up to his press person.
We talked about this a few months ago with what's his name from Jake Tapper when he was at ABC retweeting that Margaret Thatcher had died. And by the way, you mentioned Matt Visor from the Boston Globe. He retweeted it and then said, well, actually, Hillary says they're sort of a trusted news source.
To be fair, he retweeted the correction, too.
Yeah, I know he did.
He corrected himself quickly.
But somebody of his stature or Jake Tapper picking up something that they don't know themselves to be true. I don't understand the fun in that, Dan. You're a tweeter, I guess, but what fun would it be to retweet something? Oh, Margaret Thatcher's dead. It's like,
well, the idea of, I think the idea of rushing to be first no matter what is a separate issue, and I completely agree with you on that. Again, it wasn't that many months ago that we were talking about CNN and Fox misreporting the decision in the Affordable Care Act. That had nothing to do with Twitter, but they were just so eager to get it out before anybody else that they blew it.
Completely
well, and the pressure's on even more now to get it out even faster because everyone's on Twitter. It's out in 140 characters.
And how many times do you hear, I heard this from Twitter? That's how I found out about X, Y, and Z from Twitter.